Done our dough, chaps. We've done our dough.
Hello, welcome to Odds Week 7, the racing and betting show where we preview the weekend's racing that's coming up and we try and turn a profit in the long term. So last week was a slight profit, which was a bit surprising. I thought it was looking like a bad day, but in the end we made about a 20% return. We got back $58.57. On the football, again I fell into the Essendon trap that I created for myself, and we were very close with North with the 39.5 points buffer, and they lost by 40. So we just lost the North leg. We lost the Essendon leg by a big way. We got Brisbane and we got Freo. So we lost there and we missed out on a bonus bet, which has been missing the last few weeks. It's been a big drain not having that $20 bonus bet to help us out, because we have been making a profit on the races. We're $98 up so far across 6 weeks, but by the same token, we're down about 50 on the football. So overall, $48 ahead, and in percentage terms, we're 11% ahead over the 6-week period, which has been coming down and down each week. We were up at one point about 40%, and then it was 25%, and so we've dropped down to 10. But on we go to this week. So before we do, recapping the bets from last week. So Dom lost. Iron Velvet was in the end far too good in that first race. Waiting for Time was scratched, so we got money back there. There were quite a few scratchings where we got just small bits back, which did help in the end. Berezka was close with the bonus bet. Royal Hill and Bardier's Dream, nowhere really near it. Do You Think So and T Waters both flopped those picks. Do It Now was a big disappointment. That was back in the field. The dollar was a scratch and got money back there. Also disappointing, Harry got Styles and Bricard. I was just wrong there. They weren't the right picks on the day. And then also the Quinella, we weren't close. Recommendation did win as expected, which was good. Warnington Glory was scratched, money back there. The Jimmy the Bear race, so that was very close to winning. It really looked like it, but then you could tell that showmanship was going to get the better of it in that last 50 to 100 metres. The good thing was that we get bonus bets back on Jimmy the Bear. B was that I did like showmanship in the exotics. So we got the Quinella and got about $10 back. We got the trifecta, only for a very small percentage, but we got back $22.89. The entire dividend was $955, so could have even been bigger. We had a few deductions because of a late scratching, which would have been nice if the percentage had been boosted up, but still happy with the 23. And then the Open was no good, Cardigan Queen no good. Belsavar good in a placing, but we only had it for the win. The Quinella I wasn't close in that last race. And in Sydney, that race where I just had a funny feeling that it was a good betting race. I bet on Final Comment and Need a Miracle, but the winner was the other one, the third outsider that I had in that Quinella of 5 horses, Victory Rolls, which paid 20. So that was an opportunity missed, definitely. But we still got money back from the Quinella, $8.68. And Fleetwood, that was good in winning. And Vivier was scratched. And then Kindwish did no good in Brisbane. So overall, I think it was encouraging to get back that amount on a day where most of my picks were wrong, but the ones that were right did net some money back. So happy with that. And then this week, it's an opportunity to have a big collective a week, which hasn't happened for a while since the week of Hannah Fabuki. We carry over $9.60 in bonus bets, not the 20 that we'd like from the AFL. However, you have to use what you've got, so can still do some damage with those. And as mentioned with the football, 4 legs, it was too ambitious, close with North, but to be honest, I thought that they'd get well inside that 40-point margin, and to be hovering on the fringes of it, it indicates that it wasn't a smart choice to begin with. So moving on, and we'll take into consideration that, I've been probably a bit too bullish on North, a bit too bullish on Essendon. But Brisbane were good. That's something to take out of it. So on we go. Okay, so looking at this weekend, so I'll preview all the races in Melbourne. There'll only be about 4 or 5 that I think are worth, for me personally, betting on. And then a couple of races in Sydney, especially one using that second to last promo on race 8. That'll be vital. And then 3 races in Brisbane as well. So overall around about that 10-11 race betting mark. So starting in Flemington, good opening race over the 1400. Detroit City was scratched last week, and it would have been in that hot Dom race. $2.80 here. Probably okay value because some of these don't have as impressive initial wins behind them. Scoundrel and Eject have had wins, but maybe not of the same caliber. Down the order, Pieris with Craig Williams on board, quite good value at the 17. It was, when you look at the replay of its last win, it was quite impressive. And before that, it had been mixed in trials, and it had also raced in better quality races previously, where it looked like it hadn't been right, and then it was spelled, and then it was given a trial, and it seems like behind the scenes they were trying to get it into the order they wanted it. So it was such a change last time, it was such a dominant win that maybe it has gone to a new level. So for me, I'd be keeping it simple and sticking with Detroit City. I think it will get a decent run from the barrier, and with the bonus bet back, the price isn't too much of a deterrence, and then some sort of exotic around Detroit City and Pieris, a Quinella, but then also like a trifecta with those two as roving bankers, and then the field to Rove. Otherwise, it's quite volatile. A lot of those horses could improve dramatically or not, and I can't see anything I can talk about and think, okay, that's going to happen, that's not going to happen. So exercise your own judgment there. Race 2. This is one of the betting races I like, so this will be one of the 4 or 5 to bet in. Berkshire Breeze is a big favourite, as it should be, having won by 4.8 lengths last time. It's not an overly strong race. It's a small field, which can be challenging for short-priced favourites. We've seen that in the past, I think all of us, that they can just suddenly lose. From barrier 1, it should get quite a good run. Some of the other horses just very up and down. Spaycaster, horrifying, really mixing form, mixing wins and mixing unplaced runs. Post-Impressionist, what can I say? It's got good European form. It'll be running on. Berkshire Breeze should be probably sitting 2nd or 3rd from that barrier 1, and Post-Impressionist will be probably coming from 5th, trying to chase it down. The weight is significant with 5 kilos between them. To me, it's an interesting race from the point of view for staying races to come later in the year. I would be having a win bet on Berkshire Breeze, and probably that's all. Otherwise, it will just be fun to watch. Moving on to race 3. This also another early race that I will bet on. With It Had to Be Zoo, which is the favourite. I'm not really sure why it's $3.80, for the reasons that it doesn't like good ground, which, considering the weather outside, it probably will be good by tomorrow. And then also, it had a good win last start, but the grade that it's in, the grade that's been running in, it's a lot lower than the 84 of today. It's been running in sort of 70s. I just don't know that it justifies the price that much. It's a pretty even race. You could make a case for Just Do It. You could make a case for, Cindy Falls has been good lately. Alpine Fly is interesting with a 3 kilo claim. There should be some value in Bellet Riche, number 2, at $7. Its form doesn't look that impressive. However, it's got a 1.5 kilo claim. It's been running in arguably stronger races in the quality and the 90 lately, and it does bob up every now and again. And I just feel like this is the kind of race which isn't overly strong, and it could find some form. I would rather be on that than It Had to Be Zhao, because that's still only got a 20% winning strike rate, and it's had 4 starts on a good track and never been placed. So ever it might be on the up and it might run well, I would rather give Belarus a try. So for me, something on that with the prospect of money back if it runs second or third. And then exotics, I'll sort of steer away. I think I'll do something around Belarus and Just Do It, maybe as roaming bankers, and then the field to Rove, maybe a Quinella with those two. And I'll throw in something else in the betting sheet at the end of the episode. But really, I think, I'll stick to those. Okay, so moving into race 4, 1100 metre, 84 grade. Midtown Boss is quite a classy horse first up here today. It did flop at the Bull when it was favourite. The $2.50 is arguably good value considering it's not an overly strong race. Veloce Caro, number 1, will be very tough opposition. It hasn't done a lot wrong lately. It gets the claim, so they'll both be running with around 59 kilos. Veloce Caro is the real deal and could really win this. And it's hard to line up form from horses like Mao Tai, Home Rule, Prowling, even Fortunate Kiss down the order. Prowling's been placed behind It's Our Time. One I'd like to highlight is number 10, the Big Shamrock. I saw the name and I just had to sort of dig more deeply into it. And that's great. It's been running in the country, and then it had a win at its latest start where it was 3 wide on a fast pace. And you would have thought that it would have dropped off, and then it surged clear and won well. And they've brought it straight to the city as a result. So it seems like a massive class jump from Wodonga. But I love stories like that where a horse suddenly gets thrust into the limelight, and I'll be having something on it for the place, Sheely, to support that. So something on Midtown Boss, though it really could be a coin flip between that and Veloce Caro. I wouldn't want to be on anything else. And then a Quinella with those two and the Big Shamrock, so 1, 3 and 10, and then something small for the place on the Big Shamrock. So Flemington race 5 over the 1620 metres. The Zebra's at 250, and it was very good last start. However, I'm just not convinced it's the kind of horse that's going to be super consistent and win races in a row, even though it looked really good winning last time. So there's a reluctancy there to jump on board. There's some horses here, like Place of Gold. I wouldn't include Frumos because it doesn't like the ground so much. But horses like Place of Gold that have run 008, Georgie Get Mad that have run 457 recently. What a Deal, Spell 5th, 8th, 8th, 7th. It's hard to line up that form and really know what's going on. So horses like Place of Gold that have had Spell over 10th to 8th, Georgie Get Mad, 4th, 1st, 4th, 5th, 7th, What a Deal, Spell 5th, 8th, 8th, 7th. It's hard to really line that up and know how much they're going to improve in a race like this. So that's why I think that on paper it looks like Le Zebra has hit a new level and will come out and blow these away. Things can change so much on a week-to-week basis that might make the $2.50 actually not be good value at the end of the day. Rise at Dawn has been so consistent lately and so tough. It will have to be again from barrier 9. It will cross them, try and lead. Le Zebra will probably get a good run not far behind. Miracle Spin is an interesting runner. It fits into that same category of horses that have been sort of mixing form, have been thereabouts, been midfield. For me, it's a watch and see race. Even in terms of having a bet on the favourite, it's not something that appeals that much. So see what you think and what you decide. I'm going to leave that one and go on to race 6. This is intriguing for betting. Le Danseuse Rouge, number 7. Usually when it wins at juicy odds. It's 10 tomorrow, which isn't huge by any stretch of the imagination. Crosshaven probably also fits into that category of sort of bobbing up every now and again and usually at good odds. Rocketing By probably won't be suited by the ground. Right to Party is a fairly clear favourite at $3.70. It has looked good in its recent wins, but it's stepping up in grade. in this race, in terms of how the race might go, Zarastro and the astrologist should go forward together and set some sort of tempo. You could make cases for It's Our Time and Nicolini Vito. Zarastro is interesting because it's been ridden in almost every start by Angela Jones. And then now Jamie Carr jumps on board tomorrow. So let's see what effect the rider change has. In terms of what to bet on, many of these will go back and run on, which leads me to think that Zarastro and the astrologist going forward together is quite appealing. And the astrologist is a high-class horse that thrives at Flemington, that's run at Royal Ascot. And in a race like this from barrier 5, paying $6, seems like a good option. Second up, room for a lot of improvement. So that is a good option each way. And then a Cornella with La Danseuse Rouge and probably Zarastro. So 1, 3 and 7 there. The each way bet itself on number 3, the astrologist. And we move on. Okay, so race 7, this VIC Spring Gala Plate, 2,000 metres up to grade 78. It's not a race that offers a lot of value, me personally. British Columbia stands out at $9 because it's two preparations, this one and the previous one, have followed the same sort of pattern where it's had 2 leading runs that haven't been good and then it's improved sharply. So in this campaign, it had 2 unplaced runs, almost running last, and then graduated to winning as soon as it sort of hit the right distance range. It's got a 3 kilo claim and it's going to come in at 59. I think it's going to be a good stayer, so that is prominent. St Vincent's Garden has the international form lines and they're starting it in Australia. It's usually always a good thing because the internationals are so strong over ground. However, its form has been a bit up and down, so whether the $4.60 value is questionable, though it's probably still a good bet. In terms of the other runners, there are just a lot of form lines to compare and there's a lot of volatility going on. There's nothing I can find that I think makes like a strong case, like, hey, let's go, let's jump on this. Probably only Tijanis. The international form has been good. 6 starts with 1 win and 3 placings is solid and it can run on the firm ground we'll probably get tomorrow. And it's out of Australia, the sire. So for me, it's not a race I'll have an each way sort of big bet in. However, maybe a Quinella for British Columbia and Tijanis, and the same for a trifecta, something around those two as roving bankers, and then the field to rove. Okay, so race 8 at Flemington, the Kentucky Bluegrass handicap, 1,400 metres up to 100 grade. Well, it was good to see Gentleman Roy back in the winners list last time. It will be tough here with 60.5 kilos, but that is good to see. Holy Man's first up. One of its previous runs, it's had a second behind a tissue in a Group 2, which really bodes well for this. A year older and stronger, I think, bodes well for it, so that is a positive. Some of these other, like for example, Rheinberg, it has been running well lately, but the class maybe is a bit questionable. Even though this isn't the strongest race ever, it might be a bit of a different situation at Flemington rather than those very wet, very sloggy sort of tracks at Caulfield, where it was running towards the end of the program. I think Green Fly offers good value considering it was more of a favourite last time when it ran 4th, and now it's out to $7.50, where it's only got 53 kilos and it's barrier 5. And it will appreciate Flemington. So that represents good value. Also number 8, Shopping Esprit. I like, in general, the Queensland horses that come down. Well named, which is always good. Out of Bel Esprit. And its runs have been fairly strong recently. So that's one for the multiples. St Lawrence you could certainly make a case for. Just not sure. And then the same for Windstorm. I was quite keen on it last start, but it just didn't really run that well. And it's always good to forgive those and continue to follow horses. But I just don't know if I want to have an each way bet on it in those circumstances. So for me, it'll be Green Fly each way. The value proposition is good. And then a Quinella for Holymans, number 2. I will throw in Windstorm, number 5, just to stick with it from last time. So 2, 5, 8 and 10. That's the Shopping Spree in Green Fly, 2, 5, 8 and 10. And each way on Green Fly. Race 9 at Flemington, the 1200 metre Victorian Jockeys Association Sprint, 3-year-olds and up, 74 grade. So Buse is the favourite at 5.50. Considering it doesn't win that often, 3 out of 14, I'm not convinced. It's a very even race. It's actually one that really isn't a great betting race. Too many options, too many competing form lines. Attain's interesting. It took a long time to win its maiden, and then it was taken straight up to listed grade where it ran 11th. It will be interesting how it goes here. In terms of race, how the race will pan out, I'd imagine that Shame, number 13, is going to lead with Zoo Purring, Kiko and Dazzling Lucy. Over the 1200, it will be interesting how they split up down the straight. The decision here will be leave to not really bet and just to see what happens. I think it's a bit of a raffle. All right, so jumping to Rosehill race 8. This is the race where there's a second to last bonus bet promotion back with sports bet, so quite a good betting situation. Quite open, as these sort of races tend to be in Sydney later in the day. Testator Solens is a very good proposition. 52 kilos with a claim will come down to 50. It's been good lately, better than the 9th, 2nd, 5th, 4th suggests. That is going to be, it's going to be one of 2 bets. Otherwise, there's a lot that are sort of open. I don't know about Estadia Mestala, the favourite at 440. The form's good and from barrier 2. However, More Secrets might offer better value. It was really good last start, and I'd expect it to offer the same again at 950. So More Secrets and Testator Solens are the 2. What I'd suggest, because More Secrets is probably a bit more volatile in how it might run, take that with the second to last promotion. So you'll either get a win or you'll get money back. And then take Testator Solens with just one of the regular bonus bet back tokens that you can use, because it's more likely that will run a place. So those 2. I think otherwise it's very open. Cepheus did look good last start, and it really does like the track, but it's hard to recommend it if it's going to be slow, and it's had 7 starts on a slow for 1 win. Also with barrier 13 and such a big weight, difficult to recommend. Robusto was good last start, but not sure that's going to win again. Jojo was a man surprise last time at 33. Williamsburg, barrier 11, it doesn't win that often. It's just hard. So I'd stick with those 2. I'll stick with those 2, Testator Solens and More Secrets, and then we'll see how the rest go. Jumping to race 10, this isn't a naturally good-looking sort of betting proposition. It's just such a big field with so many fairly evenly matched horses. I wanted to highlight it because I think the top 4 here are quite capable. Noble Soldier, number 4, it's a better horse than the form suggests. If you go back a few preps, it was stringing firsts and seconds together quite well, and it's been close up lately. Secret Plan, the same. It's had a lot of good runs lately. Last time, not at all, but I think it had been a long prep. It had a lot of wide runs. I think everything caught up with it, so I wouldn't write it off though. It has got drawn wide again, which is a concern, but at the $16, it's too good to resist, especially since on the tote it might go out, so keep that in mind. And then the same for number 1, number 2, Kyobe and Danustar. The form's been good for Danustar. Kyobe not so much, but it's a capable horse. It gets a 3 kilo claim. For me, it'll be an each way bet on Secret Plan and Noble Soldier, and then a Quinella for all 4 of them. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And yeah, it's so open, anything really could could win, but I think that's worth trying. Okay, so moving over to Doomben, race 2 here. The favourite's Climactic at $2.20. It'll go forward-ish, but it's from barrier 1. It might get trapped a little bit on the fence. There's quite a few horses here that are going to go for the lead, a lot of speedy horses. Maul and Mrs. Quality shows a sign. Warrior Head, She Owls looked really impressive winning its only run. Won by a big margin, it's paying $5. There could be too many horses that are going to compete for the lead, and there's a bit of a question mark on the run that Climactic will get. I'd rather be on Carlisi, number 3. It's coming off of a spell. The win that it had was really good, where it ran on and rounded up the field, and then it went forward at its next run, and maybe that didn't suit it, or maybe just something wasn't right because they spelled it straight afterwards, where it wilted and ran 7th. But from barrier 7, it might just go back. It might see a lot of horses go past it and sort of tussle too much, and then it will come around them and win. So for me, each way, Khaleesi. There are other ones like What a Doozy at 70-1, which I think offer value. So there'll be some sort of Quinella in the bets to come at the end, where it'll be probably Shows a Sign, Khaleesi, What a Doozy, and something else. But yeah, each way bet Khaleesi there. Then in race 3, race 3 is an 1100 metre 78 grade. A lot of these horses here have been running in that sort of 78 race and then have tried open grade and are coming back. And to be honest, it's quite even overall. A lot of competing form lines. The fact that the favourite's paying $3.50 Brereton indicates that it's not a race with one horse that's just a lot better than anything else. Initially, I was going to put it in the leave category, but I do like Nanagai. It was a high class horse. It had its first up run after a long layoff. At 10-1, it might offer something, so I think it's worth having an each way bet. Otherwise, it's just too tricky. So just an each way bet on Nanagai. Almost out of interest and sympathy, just to sort of see how it goes. So let's do that, and then otherwise it's a bit of a leave. And then race 4, the last race we'll look at Doomben. This is fairly similar, it's pretty even. Atmosphere is a big favourite. It has got good form, but only 3 wins out of 21 in the career. There are arguably horses that offer a bit of better value. Daytona would be one at $6. Its last 2 haven't been that impressive, but before that it was. Depth Charge is coming off 3 straight wins and is paying 14, so you could certainly make a case there. Mishani Renegade, 7 starts in its career and it's had 3 wins. Its form tailed off in its last prep where it ran last in a listed race, and its trials recently haven't impressed overly. But before that, the form was really good, so it'll be interesting if it can return to that sort of form. The Inflictor, paying 5, is there. Trey Redoute was good. Last time it ran second, it was we had it in a Quinella that day. We didn't get first, sadly, but Trey Redoute was good. It wasn't the strongest race, so it might not measure up here, but I would see some value in continuing on with it. So initially I was leaning towards Daytona. I'm actually going to go towards Trey Redoute, and then there'll be some sort of small Quinella just around like a Daytona, Mishani Renegade, Trey Redoute, and maybe one other horse. Or it could just be those 3. I'll post it at the end. So that wraps up racing. All right, so looking at the AFL, Western Bulldogs, who in the app it seem to be now called Footscray, which I like. Footscray versus Melbourne. Dogs should have a big, easy win. They love Marvel. They're the kings of Marvel. Melbourne were good last week in the wet. It seems to be a thing for them lately against GWS, but yeah, Dogs should be big winners. West Coast versus the Suns. Optus Stadium. Suns were $1.40. Don't want to be involved. West Coast were better last week. This one looks really... Could have upset written all over it, especially since the Suns lost their first game at home and then the Fortress is a bit more vulnerable. So, no, don't want to be involved there. Interesting that North are not favourites here. Richmond are the favourites somehow, even though they haven't won for ages. and it's at Marvel. Yes, they've had some big ins this week, but North have had much better form lately. Very tempting. Geelong at home against Adelaide, who were very poor last week. Geelong have got some big ins. I like that. The star match of the round, Pendlebury's 400th. Collingwood, I mean, some people don't believe in these big marquee games making a team play better. I'm the opposite. I think it definitely does. This has got a Collingwood win written all over it. Home game, getting back into the conversation for the eights. Carlton coming off a fatigue-induced loss last time. Yeah, I like it. Port against Sydney, but they're basically level in betting. Port have been so wishy-washy up and down lately. They've won their last 7 against Sydney. So it actually seems like, with that in mind, and the fact that Sydney have been out of form, it makes a lot of sense for Port. But when teams have a big loss, like the Swans did against the Dogs, they usually come out and play a lot better, revved up. So I don't know. I mean, it makes sense for Port, but I don't know whether it's just too volatile. GWS against Hawthorn. Initially, it seemed like GWS were good value, and this is $1.80, considering it's up there. But it's at Manuka and Canberra, where they haven't set the world on fire. They've had some good wins, but they haven't been unbeatable, and Hawthorn have beaten them there at their last encounter. So considering well how bad I have been at dissecting how Hawthorn are going to play, it's probably one to avoid, actually. Essendon versus Fremantle. Essendon I've had way too much faith in them the last few weeks, just expecting that they would bounce back. This is probably the juncture where I should lose faith and just say, no, they're going to lose. Essendon and Freo haven't played at the MCG since 1999, since the last century. Isn't that incredible? Isn't that just unbelievable? Essendon versus Fremantle. Essendon haven't played Fremantle at the MCG since the last century, since 1999. It's been 25 years. So really anything could happen. Freo have been good in their matches at the MCG. Essendon can't exactly say the same, but I think it could be me going for something on Essendon this week. St Kilda, Brisbane at Marvel. I don't like Brisbane at Marvel. St Kilda have ruined me too much lately. I'm just going to put a pencil through that straight away. So, what is it going to be? I'm going to reluctantly leave the North game aside. The same for the Dogs game. It's going to be a 3-leg multi, and I'm going to tone things down because I need to get some sort of collect on the footy. It's been too many outs. So, Collingwood to win, Geelong to win, and then Essendon with a 22.5 head start against Freo. I was initially going to take Essendon for the win, but too much risk, so I'll do Essendon with the head start into Collingwood and Geelong. It'll be odds of around about $4.50, so $20, get back 90, bonus bets back if you miss a leg. Let's see how that goes. Probably taking a little bit too much risk, or I probably should tone it back a bit, but I do think Collingwood will lift for Pendles, that it will just be, the value on offer is just too good, so let's see. So that's everything. Bets are on screen now. It should be an interesting week, if nothing else. They've been, on the racing side, I've had little wins. So the last week was sort of a profit of $10. The week before was sort of a profit of $8, creeping up. I'm just trying to avoid sort of a big blowout, so I'd like to sort of keep it around that mark going into next week, where there might be a bit more value outsiders and also more bonus bets to play with. We haven't had a lot in the last few weeks. So let's see. Good luck for your betting. Flemington should be interesting on Saturday. It should be quite a big open run-on meeting on a reasonably good surface. And the footy will be very intriguing how it all goes down. So, best of luck to you, and let's move on through week 7.
Getting inside, and the in came Sweet Liaison to take.
Done our dough, chaps. We've done our dough.